reading the ingredients on my nuts, and I noticed something really odd. It tells you what's in it, and then it tells you what's in it again.
Regulations a lot of times are just so ridiculous. Anytime they pass a law trying to fix one thing, trying to help with something, there's always unintended consequences. This is why I really believe the federal government really should not be making regulations. In fact, they don't have a constitutional authority to make regulations. The Constitution says they have the authority to make standards. Congress can make standards. Standards are not regulations. In fact, regulations aren't even laws. Regulations are written by bureaucracies that oftentimes have a very vague set of laws that they go by, and then they themselves get to decide all the regulations. And this is why the president has as much power as he does, because the president can sign a executive order instructing these bureaucracies that he has authority over to administer and basically tell them what to do. This is not the way the founding fathers wrote the Constitution. This is not the way they envisioned our federal government to work. These regulations should really be done at a state level, not at a federal level, and they really should be more like guidelines than law, or something that people are forced to do. Now, if you cause a problem and you're not following the standards, you could potentially have civil liabilities and civil penalties, things like that. It could come back to bite you. Even if they're just standards, there's still incentive for businesses and corporations and all of them to follow those standards. But it's just not the federal government's responsibility. It shouldn't be handled by the federal government. One of the worst bureaucracies or regulatory bodies we have in government, agencies that we have in government, the IRS. Trump now has his tax plan ideas, basic ideas coming out. We don't know all the details yet, but I can tell you right now it's not going to be very fair. The basic plan of having 3 tax brackets, a 10%, a 25%, and a 35%, this is going to cause problems in and of itself. Just that alone. Let's say I'm at the 10% bracket. I'm just right at the top end of that 10% bracket, and then my employer gives me a, cost of living raise, 1%, 2%. Now I'm suddenly getting taxed 25%. In effect, I just got a 14 or 13% pay cut because my taxes went up. How does that work? If you really want to have as fair a possible income tax, which I don't think is possible, but if you want to try and make it as fair as you possibly can, what you really need to have is a flat rate and give everybody a nice big standard deduction that is like twice the poverty level, maybe even 3 or 4 times the poverty level, so that people who are at poverty level are not paying taxes, and people who are middle class are only paying maybe half their income in taxes, and everybody gets the same tax break. And then we don't have all these other tax breaks and tax shelters and things like that influence how people live their lives and influence what people do. And that's really what it is. It's control. They will never get rid of the income tax because it gives them control over what we do. It helps them to influence our behaviors, the way we buy things, what we buy, gives their cronies a kickback. Say I have a home building company or a realtor company or something along those lines, and hey, go buy a house, you get a tax credit or a tax rebate or tax this or tax that, save some taxes. The truth of the matter is the amount of money you're paying for that house is far more than what you're going to save in taxes. Even if you factor in what you would pay in rent, sometimes you're still better off renting. Just it depends on your situation, right? So being forced into doing certain things this way or that's not fair. You're never going to have a fair income tax. The biggest reason for that is because what is fair for me is not fair for you. What is fair for one person or a rich man is not going to be fair for a poor person. Now, the fair tax, where you basically is a sales tax. It's a national sales tax. I think it would be a better way of raising taxes. I think it is more in tune with what the founding fathers envisioned. But still, at that, it's not really fair, because the people who want to buy lots of stuff because they worked hard and made lots of money are going to pay the bigger burden of the taxes. And again, it manipulates your behavior. It changes your behavior, right? You're not necessarily going to go out and buy certain things because you know you're going to pay a big tax on them. Or you may find alternatives like black market or used items, things like that, where you don't have to pay this huge tax on them. The way they deal with poor people having to pay tax on food and clothing and basic essential items is by giving them a prebate, which again gives them control, because now you have to go and register or do something to get your prebate. It's not much better than having them involved in your financial life through income tax. If you're really going to do a national sales tax, let's not call it a fair tax. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it a national sales tax, and let's exempt basic essential items like grocery store items, clothing store items. Of course, at that point, majority of stores are going to be excluded from the sales tax, and you're not going to really gain a whole lot of revenue. Again, it's going to be the rich people paying for all the taxes. That's not fair to the rich people to have to pay for everything. They worked hard for that money. They earned that money. You're not just going to go and say, hey, you're rich, let's take it from you. You got the money. Guess what that does? That lowers their ability to give charitably. It lowers their ability to invest. There's no fair way to tax. Let's just put it that way. There is no fair tax. What I do wonder, though, will the tax plan that Trump is suggesting become the TTT? Trump's Terrific Tax Plan. You know, a triple-sized roll of toilet paper. Not the same thing, right? So then the question comes up, well, if there's no fair way to tax, and we decide not to tax, who will build the roads? Well, an interesting thing there was some anarchist organization that decided to go out and repair potholes in the roads. I wonder if they got caught and fined for that, because you know the government doesn't like competition, so they're not going to let them fix potholes, because what if they do it wrong? What if they're using substandard materials? What if this? What if that? I mean, seriously, what are you going to do here? This is where I think that the proper role of government needs to be looked at in a level of tiers. The ones that have the most control should be local. The ones that have the most oversight would be the states, looking into their states, oversight on the local governments. And then, of course, the federal government has oversight over the states, but its main focus is more interstate commerce and international commerce. The primary goal of all of these government levels, of course, is always going to be to protect the rights of the individual. And that's why at a federal level, I am very much libertarian. I think that getting back to the bare bone roots of what the U.S. Constitution says that it should do, getting rid of anything that is not in there and pushing that down to the states, saying, states, you decide if you want to do this or not. It's entirely up to you. The states really need to pull back too. They need to say, okay, we're going to set standards, we're going to provide basic infrastructure, but it's really going to be up to the local communities, the local cities, to decide what they want to do within their city. And it's so much easier for us if we only just could change our mindset. It would be so much easier for us to vote for and control our local city councils if we would actually, I mean, that's where real democracy is right there at the local city councils. The states, the federal government, those are republics. They're representative republics. At the local level, though, we can all get involved. We can all make our communities what we want our communities to be, help each other out, and stop letting the president and what the president's doing be such a huge distraction from the people who actually run the parts of government that affect us the most. Our city councils. You live in a bad city, you can do something about that. You have the power to do something about that. And it doesn't have to cost millions or billions of dollars. Communities can come together and help each other out and can, over time, really improve things dramatically. We just need to change our mindset and stop looking to the government, especially the federal government, to pass regulations and to pass this and pass that to protect us from big bad corporations or from evil people who want to call us names or hate speech. I mean, seriously, you want to be offended by someone talking hate speech to you? The problem is not with them. That problem was with you. Yes, they have a problem, but don't let their problem become your problem. Just ignore them. Don't give them any credit, and they'll go away. It's a social issue. It's not a government issue. Government will never fix that. It is a social issue. It is a community issue. We need to change our mindset and be more community-minded, more locally minded. And so many of our problems could be fixed. So many of our issues could be so much better than they are. If we just stop yelling and screaming and whining and protesting for someone else to fix it for us. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Peace.
What? That's kind of redundant. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of silly. It's kind of government regulations.
The tax Trump plan? That didn't sound right. The TTT? The Trump tax? The TTP? Will it become the TTP? The tax Trump plan? Is that what they're going to call it? Kind of sounds like the